everybody, Patty Ann here. Welcome back. I don't know if you saw yesterday's tutorial, but I showed how to make this shirt. And you may not be into this shirt, but I'll tell you what, you need to go check out that video because you can follow along, especially if you're a newbie with Cricut, and you're going to learn how to slice, how to contour, how to use a template in there, and how to duplicate. And even if you don't make the shirt, like I said, you can just follow along as if you're going to make it. And that's perfect practice to learn to master Design Space. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do our third installment of our card making techniques. Don't get scared off by card making, because if you're not into cards, not a problem, because you're going to learn techniques in Cricut Design Space first, and then in Silhouette, that are going to help you master your machine no matter what kind of material you're using. So let's get started with our installment, the third one on making cards. And again, remember, it's not just for cards. You're going to learn a ton. So follow me there. Okay, here we are in Cricut Design Space, as you can tell, and we're going to start by learning to use Cricut Design Space to make this paper play sketch. And then after we're done with that, we'll move on over to Silhouette Studio and make it there. So you're going to be able to master either machine or both machines if you have them both. So here we are in Cricut Design Space, and this is number 3. And you can grab this right here at paperplaysketches.blogspot.com. Or you can just take a snippet of this one if you'd prefer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you. I'll always start from the very beginning. So to get the beginning part, I would come over here to Shapes and get a square. And my first square is going to be the base of my card. So the whole card, excuse me, since I'm making an A2 size, would be, and I'm going to unlock this lock so that I can make it and it's not going to change proportionately. I'm going to make this 8.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. That is the whole card base. This would probably be white because I often use white for my card bases. And there would be a fold line down the center. To make the score line, I just come over to the shape tool again over here on the left, click on it, and there's the score line down here on the lower right. So I click on that, and notice it brought out a score line just like that. Now if I want to, what I can do is I can resize the score line by coming right up here. And all I'd want to do is change the height of it because there is really no width to it. So I could change it to 5.5 and hit enter. And then that would be the exact same width as my card base. And then I would want to center this. So I grab both of these and just come up here to where it says Align and Align Center. So now it's perfectly in the center. So what this is then is the whole card base. I would fold it in half here. And if you look at this little outer edge right here, that's all that's showing on the front of the card. Let me right click and move this to the front so you could see. So that's what would be showing on the front of my card. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this one, hit delete after I select it. And I'm just going to draw that white one. So I'm going to come to Shapes, get the square, and I'm going to change its size by unlocking this. And I'm only going to make it the front part of my card. So it's going to be 4.25 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. And that's what the front of the card base would be. Here would be the fold, and that's the front. So I can change this to white now if I'd like. And there's my front of my card. So then the next thing you'll notice here, they have another card right inside there. So again, I could come to the shape tool and I could get a square, or if I prefer, what I can do is click on this piece, come over here and duplicate it. And then I can resize it to the exact size I want which would be, in my case, I'm going to make a 1/4 inch smaller. So that would be 4 inches minus 4 1/4 inches minus 1/4 inch is 4 inches. And now I've got to unlock the lock so I can do the height right. So the height was 5.25. No, I'm sorry. The height was 5.5 or 5 1/2 inches. So if I want to take off 1/4 inch, I'm going to make it 5.25. Hit enter. Okay, perfect. And now I can change the color of this one by coming up here and change it to maybe this pale green. And if I want to center these, I can grab both of them and come up here to align, center. And now they're centered perfectly. So far I have the card base and I have this first big rectangle. Now let's see, it looks like the next thing I'm going to do is maybe something fancy right here. So I think what I'll do is I'll get another shape and go ahead and get the square. And I'm going to make it the same width as this green piece. So I'm going to unlock the lock and I'm going to make its width, what was it, 4 inches, I believe, 4 inches. And I think I'll make it a little skinnier, like that maybe. Yeah, that's perfect. Now they have something fancy on there, so I can show you one way to do fancy. Let's come up here to the images area. And let's just type in lace and see what we get. Okay, let's see. Okay, here's something we could do right here. There's a lace border. I'm going to open that and insert it. Okay, it comes in really big and it actually has a couple of different parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the light colored one and that just leaves us with the dark one. And now, okay, so did you see what I did? I came up here to the panel. There were 2 parts to that. And all I did was close the eyeball of the light part, which left me with just the dark part. So I'm going to make sure that that dark part measures exactly 4 inches because we know that's how wide that box is. So I came up here, changed it to 4 and hit enter. Then I'm just going to drag this guy up here. And I'm going to grab both of these and come up here to the align tool and say align left. Okay, so that's perfect just like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld both of these together. I'm going to grab all these pieces and say weld. Okay, that's going to be really cute. I'm going to change its color. Let's see, what shall we make it? Maybe a pretty blue color. Okay, we'll just leave it the blue color, and I'm going to bring it over here. Okay, that's a little bit wider than theirs is. So what I think I'll do is I'll come up here, unlock the lock, and I think I'll just make the height of it a little shorter like that. There we go. That's better. Perfect. Okay, so far so good. Now it looks like in addition to that they have another piece on top of this, maybe a white piece. I'll come to the shapes tool, get the square, unlock it, and what I'll probably just do is come up here and change it to white because then that'll be a nice place to put my sentiment. Stretch that out like that. So I'm just eyeballing it. If I'd like to, I can make sure that it's 1/4 inch smaller. So since this piece was 4 inches wide, this would be 3.75. And that's how big that would be. Like that. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now what I need to do is I need to work on these little pennants here. So I would again come to the shape tool and just get a triangle. And then I would just resize the triangle down and rotate it a bit because I really want it to come over here. And I'm going to unlock it so I can make it skinnier. So let's see, I should be able to click and make it skin. There we go, skinnier like that. So I want it to be like this. And rotate it a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit too skinny. I don't know. What do y'all think? Like that. And then it's a little long maybe. There we go. All right. So then what I would do while that is selected, I'd probably change its color. And let's see, maybe I'd make it something like that. I guess this could be for a boy, although that looks a little bit lacy, and I think I'll change this color to a darker one. All right, and I'll change this to something else as well. Okay, it's getting a little bright now, but that's okay. So we're just getting the idea. We're not going to really make this. So I have one made, one pennant. I can come over here while it's selected and just hit duplicate and duplicate because I want 3 of them. I'll just come up here and rotate this around like this and bring this one up like that, and maybe rotate this one a little bit more like that. And if my pattern was working over here in Cricut Design Space, what I'd really like to do is change these into a pattern. Let's see if it's working right now. I'm going to click on this one and come up here to where it says print, because I want to print out a pattern. I don't want to print out a color. I want to print a pattern. And let's say I don't even know what's in here, to be honest. Let's say I like the puppy dog feet. Okay, it's not working right now, but I think that'd be super cute if I could add a pattern in here instead of just having it plain. So I'll just have it plain colored like this. And then the other thing that I could do if I wanted to, could have some sentiment here, and I could put something, you know, maybe some stars or something down here. Whoopsie. Some stars or something down here just to jazz it up some more. So I can make those the same color or a different color. And maybe I would duplicate that a bunch of times. I might decide to make it smaller, this one, and put it up top here. Hey, I could even just put these on the pennants, right? Could put 3 of them up here to just kind of carry the theme. And another one up here. I'm making it smaller. And then, so this could be part of the sentiment, and I could write something else here. And maybe for my sentiment, and this could be a print then cut, so I could take this piece off if I want to right now, and I could put in you're a winner. I just said that because it sort of looks like somebody might be a winner because of this pennants. So right now this text is kind of far apart. So what I would do to fix that then is come up here to the line spacing, and I could make the line spacing smaller so they'd get closer together and fit more easily on this card. Okay, you're a winner. And I might change the font, but if I liked it like that, I could just grab all this together and say attach or flatten. If I'm going to do a print then cut, I would do a flatten and bring this over here like this. And, you know, probably put a few more stars down here just to even it out a little bit. And if this was a kid, kids like gold stars. So I could put glitter on these. Just make them fancy. Make a few more maybe. And that's probably it. That's all we need to do. Now to make this, let's see what would happen if we go to make it. Oh, look what happened. We don't want that. Let's cancel this. This is crazy. All right, let's see. What do we got here? We got a print then cut, which we don't want that to be a print then cut. We just want this to be, no, we just want it to be a cut. There we go. Okay. So, and we don't need this to show up, so we'll hide that. And now let's go to make it. So the only thing that should be a print then cut is this white thing. And if you're wondering if the letters are going to cut out because it's hard to tell, if you can't tell by the grid here, You can come down here to where it says blank canvas, click on that. Then you can change the color of your canvas so you can see what's going to cut. And now you can tell that it's going to be this right here that's going to cut. Okay, there's one more thing you don't need to have to cut for this, and that is this square. Because recall, this square right here is just our base of our card that we're folding. So I can hide that as well. Okay, put this back here. And now let's go to make it. And you can see this is going to print and cut just like this. Then we'll have the yellow stars, which are fine. We're just going to glue those onto our card. The green cardstock, and the blue. So that's all you have to do for Cricut Design Space. Now let's head on over to Silhouette and see how we do it there. Okay, here we are in Silhouette Studio, and you would do it the same way as you started in Cricut Design Space, meaning you would get out your little rectangle right here and draw out a rectangle, and you could resize it to be the whole width of your card with the score line. And if you're not sure how to make this score line, you can just come over here to the line tool area and draw a line by holding down your shift key so it stays straight. And then what you can do, oops, I didn't hold on just a sec. Got to do that again. So when you hold down your shift key to make sure it stays straight, make sure you let go of your mouse key before you let go of your shift key. Okay, and then you could select both of these things. And again, you could come up here to the Align tool and align them to the center. Okay. Now, one of the things I really like to do when I'm using Silhouette is to make my score lines green. So what I would do is click on this score line right here, come up here to the line color. Notice right here, this is the blue, this is the fill color of the thing. The one to the right is the line color. I'm going to make it green. And then I can't really see it very well, but it's there. You see it right there, right? Okay. So the other thing I would do, of course, is maybe change this to white because it's going to be white. And this is where it's going to fold in half. So again, instead of needing this whole piece right here, we'll just delete that because we can just cut that out with our little cutting machines. Don't need to use your Silhouette or your Cricut. So I'm going to delete it. And I actually don't even need to make this piece because this is the part of the card base. But of course, when it's folded in half, just so you know, it's 5.5 inches tall and it's 4.25 inches wide. And I always make my cards that width because I like to make that size, which is the A2 size card. All right. So the next thing that we do, just like in Cricut Design Space, is there's this inner part right here. And I made mine red on this sample that I did here. So all I did was come over and get a square. And I could draw out another square like this and change its dimensions up here. Or in Cricut Design Space, there's another way that I could do that. I could just take my original card and come way over here to the offset panel, and I'm going to do an internal offset because I want to make this piece, this next square, smaller than this one, right? And I want to make it 1/4 of an inch smaller. So I hit internal offset, and I'm going to change this to, now, if I want it to be 1/4 of an inch totally, this is going to be maybe a little bit confusing, but I want this to actually be 0.125. Because what that means is it's going to put 1/8 of an inch offset on this side and 1/8 of an inch offset on that side. So both together now, that's 1/4 of an inch. So I could just apply this. And now notice we have the two pieces already. So what I'm going to do with this second one, the internal one, is I'm going to change its color to red. So we can put these back together like this. And what I can actually do, whoopsie daisy, is let me group all this stuff together, group, and move this over so you can see that there is that white backing behind there. All right. Now the next thing it looks like I need to do is to maybe make this fancy part like we did over there by getting the lace. I'm going to do it a little bit differently here in Silhouette. So check this out. Let's move this out of the way. I'm going to get a rectangle. I'm going to draw it. And it's going to be 4 inches wide because that's how wide the red piece is. So I'm going to change its width to 4 inches and hit enter. And I don't really care what its height is right now. See how that's, I can adjust that in a little bit. So what I'm going to do with this, and this is really cool, I'm going to come over here to the knife tool. And when I'm in the knife tool, if you'll notice, I'm going to have it on outline. Look here, it says straight. I'm going to show you all these different kind of knife tools that you can use. You can make little triangles. You could draw freehand or curve, sawtooth. Look at all these different ones that you could do. A wave. Well, I'm going to do the one that says square because that's what I did in my sample down here. So all I have to do, and I have auto apply unchecked up here. So I'm just going to hold down my shift key and draw across. And that just makes these little sawtooth looking guys. So now notice I have these extra little bits right here. I have the little zipper thing. I can do this and make my little cuts, my little chunks closer together or farther apart. I can move this over so that it ends with this side. But I think, let's see, I think I want to end it like that. With this piece coming down. And then, let's see. There we go. Okay, those look about similar. See what I'm trying to do? I'm looking at the way this is ending over here with a little tiny thing like that, and it looks the same on this side. So now I'm just going to say apply. Doesn't look like it did much, right? But check this out. I can take this piece right off of there. Now I'm left with this piece. So in my sample here, what I did, and it's hard to tell, I made that white. So let's bring this over here and make it white. But you know this piece that cut off right here, I could save that for something if I wanted to. Put it down here and make it something different this time. But I'll do the same thing I did here to show you. So the next thing that I did was I got a rectangle, and I drew it right inside of here, and I just kind of eyeballed it. It really doesn't matter. You could bring it down here if you want to, up here, whatever you like. I just changed it to black by coming up here. Okay, the next thing I did was just this little checkerboard down here, and to do that, first I got a little white rectangle, and I drew a little white rectangle in here. Any size, just kind of eyeballed it, and I changed it to white. Looks pretty good. And I'll change its color to white. And then I put another one inside of that. So let me draw one more inside of that. And this one then, I made the checkerboard. So to do the checkerboard, all I had to do was come over here to the paint palette, the trace, or that's not the, sorry, this, the little one that looks like an artist palette. Click on that. The first one here is for color fill. Second one is for gradients, if you want to put a gradient fill in whatever it is you're print then cutting. And the third one is patterns, and I love the checkerboard, as you know. Now, of course, there's, usually it comes in open like this. I can go to the advanced options, and I can scale the pattern up or down. And I'm going to scale it down this time because I like it like that. So now we're going to go on to the pennants. Okay, doing the pennants is a little bit different here because if you look over here in our drawing tools or the flexi shapes, there is no triangle, which surprises me. But what you can do very, very easily is just come up here to the drawing or line tools and select the second one in that's called draw a polygon. So then you just come over here and you draw a line, click. Everywhere you click, you're leaving a point. And when you're ready to attach these both together, just double click and there's your pennant. So I just adjust it and then I'll bring it up here and twirl it around and see what it's going to look like. Okay, it's going to be way too long because it's going to go way too much into my area that I want for my sentiment. So I can make it skinny like that, and I think that will look pretty good. So what I will do before I duplicate it is I'll just come back over here to the paint palette, go back again to the pattern fill, and grab the same thing. I could grab something else. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do two like this and one like the checkerboard. So if I'm going to do that, all I'll do is hit Control D on my keyboard, and that duplicates that one. And now I actually can hit Control and D again to duplicate that one, but I'm going to change its color. So while it's selected, I'm going to change its pattern to that. Okay. I'm not sure if I like that or not, but we can leave it like that for right now because I actually kind of do like it, I guess. It's a little bit more interesting than just this. So the last thing that I did on this one was I just came over to the text tool here and came over here onto my mat or onto this area to the right and typed in you, and I did all caps. You are my, and then on the next line I put down champion. Okay. And then I grabbed all of that and I came over here to the right hand side where the text tool is, and I said to center it. Okay. And then I needed to make it much smaller so it was going to fit in that black area. So let's see how that's going to go. That looks pretty good. And I changed its color to white. The only other thing I might like to do is perhaps to ungroup this. No, I'll just leave it like that. So that's all I need to do for this one. So let's get rid of some of this stuff that we don't need. Move this off the mat and let's see what we've got. So we need this red piece to be cut, and we can cut that either with our cutting machine, our Cameo or Cricut, or with a rotary cutter or something. Don't need this cut because that's the base. These are going to be print then cuts. All of these are going to be print then cut. Maybe just this one. This could be cut with my regular cutter. This, whoopsie, I shouldn't have done what I did, ungroup that. I am going to just go ahead and regroup this. And actually I can, no. So I'm going to regroup that, and so I can get rid of this thing. So this is going to be just a regular cut, so we don't need to do that yet, although we could if we wanted to. These are going to be print then cuts. So for our machine, what we need to do is we're going to go to send, and we're going to click on this, highlight everything, and just say cut edge, because we don't want those words to cut out. Did you notice that? When it just said cut, it was not only going to cut this box, but it was also going to cut out all of these letters. We just wanted to cut the edge. But you know what? We're not quite done yet, because we want this to be a print then cut. So let's go back to design. And what we need to do is we need to set this page up for a print then cut. So to do a print then cut, I'm going to come up here to the page setup. I'm going to have the machine's going to be my Cameo. The cutting mat is the Auto Cameo. My media size, I'm going to use an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So I'm going to change it to a letter size. So all my things need to fit on there, and they will easily. And the other thing I need to do is I like to click both of these things to show the print and show the cut borders. But most importantly, I need to come up here and show the registration marks. Right now they're off. I want them on. So what this tells me now, I cannot put anything over top of this grid line or outside of that red line because it will be cut off. Even though this really isn't going to be printed, it can be a print then cut because white's really not going to print. And I can just put it there since I have that cardstock available. So I can twirl this one around and move him up like this. And I can twirl this guy around and move him in here like this. And I can actually just bring this guy up and twirl him a little bit, put him in there. So notice none of those are going outside of the checkerboard or the lines. This one can come right here. This one can come beside it carefully. Let's make sure those aren't touching. Okay, that's good. All right, now since we still have some more room, we might as well, since we're using the cardstock, might as well bring this guy in here. It's going to be a print and cut, but all it's going to do is cut, and it'll save us time. And I can twirl this around and also print it like that. So all I'll really have to cut manually is the red piece and the white card base. So let's go ahead and look and see. Send. Okay, all that's going to happen is the white card base is going to cut. Let's see. Yeah, that looks pretty good. One last thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to scroll in here and make sure that these two aren't overlapping. And nope, they're not, so that should be fine. So again, I would just say send. And these are all totally going to be out of cardstock, but before I went ahead, let's see, send. Before I would go ahead and cut these, I would have to send them to my printer. So I'd go File, Print, and I use the Epson that I have linked down below, which I absolutely love. It'll do 12 by 12 inch sheets of paper, 12 by 24 sheets of paper. All right, so I'm going to do Preferences. And I'm going to tell it to show me a print preview so I can see what's going to happen. I would change this quality to best and say OK and print, and it's going to show me what's going to print. Okay, so that's it. Even though you can't see these things down here because they don't really print, when we go to cut, our machine will know these things are here, these little rectangles, and it will cut them out perfectly. So that's all you have to do. I hope you've enjoyed doing this tutorial along with me. I hope you're learning, you're mastering your machine. Again, whether you're using a Silhouette or your Cricut Design Space, or even Silhouette for Cricut Design Space. Yes, you can purchase Silhouette software and use it with your Cricut machine, and there's so much more that you can do with that software easily for your Cricut machine. If you do have Silhouette, please go to my website, my blog. I have 5 free classes for you, and if you're thinking about getting it for your Cricut machine, you can watch those 5 free classes too and see what you think. So again, thanks for joining me. Check out my links below. See you again soon. Bye.